Yeah, that's a wrong clock.
Oh, it's 9:50, yeah, that's what I was looking at too. Okay, good, well, good thing to know.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's all stand. Yeah, let's all stand and sing, Gather the Spirit.
Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to each of you to this space. As always, we embrace all that you come with, all that makes you unique, that makes you different. This includes those of you who are in the room with us this morning, as well as those of you who are live streaming with us. It's great to have all of you. Our in-person crowd may be a little smaller than usual today because we're having our annual luncheon after the second service. So those that are here, or those that are nearby at least who are live streaming, would be welcome to come to, I think, a lasagna luncheon in celebration of our lasagna is always good, right? Yeah. Sounds good. So we would invite you to come back for that. But glad that you're here right now. So welcome as always to one and all. And as a reminder, we are by the way, apologize for getting started a little late. The clock in front of me says it's 9:03, so we're actually 15 minutes early by that clock, but thank goodness somebody was looking at their actual watch. So anyway, this is, we're in the midst of our annual pledge campaign, stewardship campaign. We like to call it our generosity campaign here at UUCS. And you can, if you haven't, first of all, thanks to those who have already pledged. We really appreciate all of your generosity. Those who are still to do so, you can easily do so online. There's also a table with balloons in the back of the room. If you want to give your pledge on a physical pledge form, that would be welcome as well. So with that said, I want to invite a woman I know fairly well, Peggy Eklof, forward to offer our this week's generosity moment.
Good morning. I'm here this morning to represent the Social Justice Coordinating Council because we believe the power of community allows us to live our values. Our community is more than what happens within our walls. It is how we show up in the world. Guided by our Unitarian values, we are called to live with compassion, seek justice, and serve with open hearts. We embody our faith through our actions, whether it's placing a simple can of food in the little free pantry out front, showing up with love and visibility at the Pride Parade, supporting One Parish, One Prisoner, engaging with Spokane Alliance, or giving generously to efforts like today's special collection, the Make It Happen Fund. Each of these acts, large and small, is a reflection of who we are and what we believe. This is the power of community, turning our shared values into meaningful impact. Your pledge helps make this work possible. It sustains not only our congregation, but also the difference that we make in the wider world. Together, we are the power of community. Thank you.
Well, let's hear it. Let's give it up. I was so overwhelmed that I forgot where we were at in the order of service. Actually, it is a chalice lighting, but usually we let folks greet one another. So since you're already standing up, why don't we take a few moments to greet one another this morning? I know it's not a lot in the room, so you could have a quiet conversation all together if you want. All right, thank you. And now we can have our chalice lighting. The chalice, as I say each Sunday, is a symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
As we are offering our pledges this month, I thought it would be a good time to look at our church's interesting history. It's partially told in a book that was published in 1968, Unitarians in the State of Washington, 1870 to 1960. In Chapter 5, author Esther McDowell writes the early history of the First Unitarian Church of Spokane, established in 1887. 1 year earlier, a prominent Boston minister, Dr. Charles Wente, visited Unitarians in Seattle, Olympia, and Tacoma before proceeding to remote Walla Walla, where white settlers were still on edge after the 1847 killings of missionaries Marcus and Narcissa Whitman by Cayuse Indians who were angered by the wave of smallpox deaths they blamed on the Whitmans. He was unsuccessful at that time in establishing a formal church there and was about to return to the East Coast when he received a letter from Mrs. R.E. Clark, a Cincinnati Unitarian who had relocated to the small settlement of Spokane Falls. That visit led to the establishment of Spokane's Unitarian Church. Its first minister was a Reverend Edwin Wheelock, a Harvard-educated New Yorker who had an earlier ministry in New Hampshire. While there, he had preached a sermon on abolitionist John Brown, which, McDowell wrote, was so fiery that the state of Virginia offered $1,500 for his capture, dead or alive. After that threat, a ministry in the far west may have suddenly seemed advisable to Wheelock. Our church building at Sprague and Jefferson Streets was dedicated in December 1888 and escaped destruction a year later when a massive fire swept through Spokane's business district. Another minister and Harvard graduate, 30-year-old Joseph Stocks, arrived here in 1892 but died of typhoid fever a few months later. A series of others followed. As we know from Reverend Todd's sermons, the most prominent was Dr. John Dietrich of Pennsylvania, who preached his first Spokane sermon on November 6, 1911. After rejecting the beliefs of his family's Reformed Dutch church, Dietrich was indicted for heresy, convicted in a church trial, and defrocked. A Spokesman Review reporter who'd lived in Pittsburgh during the heresy trial recommended Dietrich to the Spokane congregation. Within a year, his sermons were attracting large crowds, and church membership tripled in 3 years. By 1915, the large Clemmer Theater was rented to accommodate the crowds. Dietrich was agnostic on God and immortality, but rejected being called an atheist. The best description of his beliefs was a religious humanism. After 5 years here, he moved to Minneapolis, where he found an even larger audience. Our next pastor was Dr. William Clay Simons, a prominent lecturer who helped build Seattle's first church and also an Oakland, California congregation. Under his leadership, the church lobbied for better salaries for public school teachers and supported the Hutton Orphanage. He died suddenly of a heart attack in October 1920. Several other short-term ministers followed, and the small church building had to be torn down. With no permanent building, membership dropped. But during World War II, in 1942, Dr. Lon Ray Call arrived from Boston. Under his leadership, the congregation spent $25,000 to buy the 1888 Glover Mansion, designed by famous architect Kirtland Cutter. That's on the South Hill. It's where my children went to RE school. A new minister, Australian John Brogden, succeeded Call and stayed until 1956. He was replaced by the Reverend Rudy Gilbert in 1957. Gilbert was undeterred by the nation's anti-communist paranoia of the time, leading the local United Nations Association, supporting the American Friends Service Committee and the ACLU, and defending the Bill of Rights from the pulpit. In 1959, the church was outgrowing the Glover Mansion, and members decided to build a chapel. architect Moritz Kundig, a church member who died 2 years ago at age 98, was chosen to design it. Noted artist Harold Belaise, also a member, created its slabbed walls and distinctive lights. Moritz would later design this church as well. At the end of 1960, church school enrollment totaled 130 children. The board of directors included Carl Maxey, the lawyer and civil rights leader, whose legacy was discussed by Spokane author and my former Spokesman Review colleague, Jim Kirshner, in a sermon here last month. At the end of her chapter on our church, author McDowell noted the national reputations of other church members, including U.S. Senator Clarence Dill and Joseph Gandy, who became president of Seattle's 1962 World's Fair. In more recent decades, our ministers have included the Reverend William Harper Houff, who warned of the dangers of nuclear weapons production at Hanford, and our current minister, Reverend Todd Eklof, a defender of classical liberalism. We should be proud of this rich history and work to sustain it. We're carrying on the legacy of our humanist predecessors. Thank you.
Okay, let's stand and sing Guide My Feet. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain, race in vain.
Thank you for that. Great song selections today, by the way. Thank you both. We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. And I did not receive any special requests locally, but obviously there's a lot going on in the world, continues to go on in the world, that we have mentioned each Sunday for far too long, unfortunately. On behalf of the people of Ukraine and Russia, Palestine, Israel, Iran, and all of those countries involved in that, as well as the people of Darfur and South Sudan, the frightened immigrants in our own country, so many people to express our empathy for at this time in the world. Let's share a moment of silence on behalf of them, as well as others you might be thinking of this morning, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud, those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. This is our third Sunday of the month, and that means that we have a special collection today on behalf of a cause or organization that is in alignment with our mission. And I'm happy to say that this week's Make It Happen Fund is, this week's special collection is on behalf of our own Make It Happen Fund, which is a fund that has been here for years before I came. I don't know when it actually got started, but it is a fund that actually provides resources to those among us who are doing something in our community that helps sustain or express our mission in the community or the larger world. And so this is a pot of funding that we try to keep healthy so that we can help with things that they might need financially. So again, if you want to, as always, want to contribute to this, if you're online, you can easily go on our church website and do so. Just indicate that it's for the special collection. If you're in the room, of course, use the special collection envelope provided in your order of service. No need to seal it as usual because we like to recycle things around here, so we'll reuse them. The envelope that you will be using today has probably been used by countless Unitarians over the years. So another piece of history to add to your history. Okay, we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and, as I said, our mission to the larger world.
Todd, can you turn on the vocal mic for a sec? It's on. Cool. I'm going to be doing a piece by Dr. Billy Taylor. I wish I knew how it felt to be free. I believe this piece was written in 1963, and Nina Simone recorded it, and it became sort of an unofficial anthem for the civil rights movement.
Thank you, Jackie. Each month, on Reading Across the Lifespan Sunday, which it is today, we take a few moments to remember that reading is not just something we want for only our children to learn in school, it's something we all need to put in practice across our whole lives. Why? Because reading for pleasure helps us grow our attention, our empathy, and our ability to think for ourselves. It gives us language for our own lives and invites us to imagine lives beyond our own. And as Unitarians, a people who value curiosity, compassion, and the freedom to seek truth, reading is one of the ways we live out those values. So each month we invite or remind you, wherever you are in your reading life, to celebrate the joy of reading and recognize the real miracle it is. And in RE, we'll continue to encourage our children, your children actually, to choose a book and keep building their home libraries. Today, we're going to spend a few moments thinking about our own reader identities by asking a couple of questions. What does a reader look like? And what kind of reader are you? Let me start with a small confession. If you came over to my house and saw me reading, you might think I was preparing to perform a minor surgery. Because when I read, I don't just read, I arrive with accoutrements. Or if I'm feeling fancy, accoutrements. But that means all the little extra things I didn't even know I needed, but for me, they make my reading time all the more special. I have a pencil, mechanical of course, an eraser, a pen, fine point, 0.38 to be exact, black ink, sticky notes, sticky tabs, a highlighter, green or pink, never yellow, a notebook, it's got to be a dot journal or fine ruled where I diligently track what I've read and what I plan to read next. Colored pencils with a cute little sharpener, all built in, and a 6-inch ruler. Then I need my book light, a cup of tea, my side table, my glasses, a candle can be nice, oh, and some lip balm. And if it's even a little bit chilly, I need a blanket. And if I'm outside, sunscreen. Okay, I'm ready to read. My paperback, trade please, none of that mass market stuff, and not hardcover, my wrists are too scrawny. But then there's my husband. He needs his phone and his earbuds. That's it. He just presses a button and he's inside a story. And my son, he prefers his e-reader and a cat. So, as you can see, some people are very simple in their reading habits and others are very high maintenance like my husband and son with all that technology nonsense. How about you? Some people can read in the car and some people absolutely cannot. Some people need total silence, and some people like a little noise, a coffee shop, music, life happening all around them. Just look at all the different ways there are to be a reader. A reader might look like someone curled up with a blanket and a cup of tea, or someone walking around the neighborhood with earbuds, or someone tapping a screen, or turning a page, or listening closely. And here's one other thing. Some readers don't read words at all. Not yet, anyway. Some readers are still growing. They sit close. They listen. They watch the pictures. They turn the pages before you're ready. They ask for the same book again and again and again. Those readers, they're not future readers. They're readers right now. They're learning how stories sound, how they feel, how they live inside us, and if we're not watching carefully, sometimes how they taste. So now we've answered, what does a reader look like? The next question is, what kind of reader are you? Are you a cozy reader, a listening reader, a note-taking reader, a late-night reader, a just one more chapter reader, a read it again reader? Because here's the thing,
There isn't just one way to be a reader. There are as many kinds of readers as there are people in this room. And the cool thing is, you get to build your own reading life. For the adults in the room, you already get to decide how you read, where you read, when you read, and what you read. And for the kiddos and youth, you're almost there too. And all of those choices, over time, shape who we become as readers. So whether your reading life includes a full collection of carefully arranged accoutrements, or just a quiet moment and a good story, you're already a reader. And readers of all kinds are always growing. Today in RE, we're going to shape ourselves a little silly because I brought one of the absolutely silliest books I could find on the shelves of the Wishing Tree bookstore, the Future book. And then we're going to test a book that claims it can read our minds. We'll see. If you're curious how it turns out, you can find out at our luncheon today, or maybe even share a book with children that you love. Because together, our mission is growing a community of readers across the whole lifespan, one story at a time. Mission in progress.
As we prepare for meditation, let us reflect on the Spokane Unitarian Church's 1960s credo: individual freedom of belief, discipleship to advancing truth, democratic process in human relations, universal brotherhood, undivided by nation, race, or creed, and allegiance to the cause of a united world community.
not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. mistakes that I've made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. I am light. I am light. Oh, well, I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Ooh, I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I'm not my race. My soul inside. It's all light. It's all light. All light. It's all light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Oh, I am light. I am light. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. Because I am light.
Oh my gosh, what a rich service this has been already. I don't think I need to say a word after everything we've experienced this morning already. Between that beautiful song and message and Jackie's rendition of I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, and your incredible reminder of coming to the reading spot prepared. And your incredible history has just been wonderfully rich. So thank you all so much for such a meaningful experience. I hope I can add to it. By the way, short notice, but would one of our ushers be kind enough to get the handheld microphone from Todd Milne and maybe walk around like Phil Donahue when the time comes so that we can hear folks? This is our periodic, I try to do it at least once quarterly, conversations with Todd where you get to ask questions of me. Try not to deal with church business questions. We save that for business meetings, but anything that else might, you might be wondering about, a question about something I've said or not said, those sort of things. Before we begin, I'm kind of reminded of a joke, actually, of the Catholic boy and the Unitarian boy who swapped churches with each other. So they went to the Catholic church first, and the priest did the sign of the cross, and the little Unitarian boy says, "Well, what does that mean?" And the Catholic boy says, "Well, it doesn't mean a thing." And pretty soon, they call for the bread and wine, and communion is taken, and the Unitarian boy says, "Well, what does that mean?" And the Catholic boy says, "Well, it doesn't mean a thing." So then at some point, everybody gets down and kneels for prayer, and again, the little Unitarian boy asks, "What does that mean?" The Catholic boy says, "Doesn't mean a thing." So anyway, this went on, and finally the next Sunday comes, and they're at the Unitarian church. And the first thing the minister does is take off his watch and set it on the pulpit. And of course the Catholic kid says, "Well, what does that mean?" And the Unitarian boy says, "Doesn't mean a thing." So, nobody laughed. You didn't get that. Well, you will in a moment, because the clock isn't working in front of me. I've set my watch down to keep up with the time. So, if you're wondering why I did that, it doesn't mean a thing. Okay. So, I'll wonder if anybody wants to start us off. Did you want to ask about what it takes to be a good comedian? Timing, yeah. Yes, okay. Yeah, if you'll, just because our friends are streaming with us, we want them to be able to hear, and hold it up close there.
Okay. So we talked about this a lot, actually, in Kurdkara, and it's something I think that you do really well, and I would like to learn how to do it better. And that is to be able to articulate the opposite view or another perspective that's different than your own before you try to share your own perspective. How do you do that? How can we learn to do that better?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Ugh. Well, thank you, one, for saying that I do that well, because that's that is to me a very valuable thing for all of us to do that I don't feel that I do well. It's a lifelong sort of practice. For those who don't know Kurdkara, if I can just clarify, Kurdkara Dojo was a group we at least on a temporary hiatus, but it's been in the church for years, that practices logic in a very practical way by getting us to ask 4 questions of ourselves. The first question is to own our biases. You know, what are my biases? So you hear something, and there's usually an immediate emotional response to it. We don't catch the emotional response because we can't get in touch with our emotions until we articulate them as a thought, and our thoughts feel like they're reason or rational. But really, the thought is another expression of the emotion we're having that we try to understand by articulating it. And so we have to first say, how does this make me feel? And what do I think about it? So often there's a negative or positive response. Couldn't agree more. Hate the idea. And then what is it causing us to feel? I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling exuberant, feeling joyful, happy, whatever it might be. And if we're feeling happy because of something we hear or angry because of something we hear, it's probably because of our bias, not because there is something objectively wrong or right with what we're hearing, or not necessarily so. So that's the first question. What are our biases? What's preventing me? And that's such an important question, because that really gets to the heart of Lynn's question. What enables me to see things from the opposite perspective or a different perspective, even if it's my own thought, right? So I think going to that place of uncertainty helps us be more honest about our own ideas. So that question, to me, is primal to your question. The second question, we would say, what's the what? Which in logic would be referring to the conclusion that we're being asked to accept as true, or the thought or the propositional statement that we're being asked to accept as true. So what is it that somebody is actually asking me to walk away believing? Because oftentimes, like me right now, you say a whole lot of things, right? There's a whole lot of statements and a whole lot of chatter. You want to boil it down. What if I were to put it in one sentence, what is it I'm being asked to accept? And once we do that, we ask, what's the why? And logic could be the premises or the reasons to accept something as true. Oftentimes when people speak about an idea, something they believe in, they don't tell you why. That's one of the problems I have with a certain president in the world right now. No data, right? We never understand the reasons for their thinking. We're just supposed to trust their propositional statements without any reason for doing so. The reason is called reason is because it demands reasons. So what's the why? And that's something few of us ask. I think it should be the most fundamental question of anything we hear, because we're constantly bombarded by ideas, whether they're coming from our own heads, whether they're coming from people around us, whether they're in the news. We're really in what I call a noosphere, an ocean of ideas bombarding us at all times. Certain schools of thought go by, big humpback schools of thought, or lone ideas, whatever it might be. And we're having emotional responses all day to these ideas without even being aware that our emotions are being triggered by the ideas, right? Because, as I've said in previous sermons, we're wired to love our ideas as if they are our own children, to nurture them so that they can get passed on to the future even after we're dead, right? They're parasitic in that sense. And then finally, does the what follow from the why? Do those reasons actually support what I'm being asked to accept as true? It's a little harder. It helps to actually know some formal logic to answer that question, but a lot of it is intuitive, right? So now, if you ask yourself those 4 questions, you're doing 4 times as much as most people when it comes to dealing with the ideas that come your way. Most of us just get the idea and we have a reaction and don't think about it. So when I started to set up the Kadkara, and it took a few incarnations to figure out the process, if you remember, Lynn, I asked myself, I've been saying for years, if we taught kids logic or critical thinking today, we could solve most of the world's problems in one generation, and I still believe that's true. Why? Why would I say that? Because I know formal logic. I can do formal logic. It's very complicated, and I can't do it when people are speaking to me, in the sense that I don't break things down into logical syllogisms and those sort of things and work out the syllogism to see if it actually rationally fits. In my head, I can't do that. I would have to stop and sit and write it down, and it would take a lot of time. So you can't function that way. So why am I saying this about logic? Well, it's because I intuitively have distilled it down to this sort of 4-step process. And the Kadkara gave me an opportunity to articulate that in a way that others could use it. So to me, that is the secret to the question you're asking, right? If you adopt this process and it becomes internal to how you filter information, part of that is being able to look at the opposite of what you said and see if there's any validity of what you're focusing on, at least, or what others have said, and finding, is there some validity to it or not? Or could the opposite of what I think be true also? And often, yes. Often the answer is yes. 2 things can seem to be true even if they oppose each other a little bit. And that's the reality that we live in. Or as I often say, when people come up and say, well, you didn't say this, you didn't say that. I said, no, I didn't say that. There's billions of people in the world. I'm not going to say everything. Right? I'm very limited on what I can say. But as my philosophy professor, Dr. Roark, used to say, and I'm sure he got this from a philosopher, I can't remember which one, but he used to say, no human statement is ever adequate. So it's an approach to life that becomes internalized, right? When you start to realize this is, or accept that this is part of our reality, that I can't know everything, that there's always more to what I have to say, much more to what I have to say that must also be true. And there is something about what I say that is probably wrong because it is incomplete, or perhaps just blatantly false. To live in that reality, I think, gives you the humility to look at other possibilities. So that's the short answer. Oh, good. Yes, you just use the microphone. Absolutely.
I'm wondering, we're engaged in this rather strange dialogue, argument, debate between our president and the Pope, the leader of 1.5 billion Catholics in the world. It would be unlikely that a Unitarian would be chosen to mediate that conversation, but if you were chosen, how would you do it?
Oh my God, that is a tough question. I think I would probably insult everybody. Yeah, well, for one thing, I think the Pope is doing a pretty good job of mediating it himself by simply saying, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not in a fight with the president. I am expressing my faith in the way that I think it should under the circumstances that are going on in the world. I don't know that I would be a good mediator. I'll just be honest. I don't know that I would be a good mediator for that or a lot of things. I don't think I have the personality to mediate things. I'm not rigid, but I do take a side on issues like this. So I will say that I have a sermon coming up in May on our founding documents that call upon us to crush superstition. So the real issue I'm having right now with the issue that you bring up, Karen, with what's going on in the world, in our country, is that we're having serious conversations about whether or not the president had a blasphemous image on his social media. Right? I mean, I'm literally hearing newscasters of prominent American news programs talking about what God says and what the Bible says, and that this is blasphemy. I feel like I feel like I feel like I'm under a country where the Ayatollah Khomeini is leading us or something. It's unbelievable that in 2026 in America we have serious conversations about somebody being blasphemous. I mean, yeah, I think the AI thing was ridiculous. It shows the madness of the king, if you will, for me, the arrogance, the ego, the malignant narcissism, all that stuff. But it's a great, it's great, good. I'm glad we see more about the truth of this, who this human being is. Once again, maybe at some point more of us will get it than not. So to me, it becomes, it has some utility to see these things, and for there to be some controversy around it of people being upset. Come on, man, you're portraying yourself as Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? That's it. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But to have charges in the American media of the president committing an act of blasphemy and similar statements that I've heard, to me is very disturbing, very troubling. What happened to those dreams in the 18th century, in the 19th century, that we were moving away from this, that we were going to, all be Unitarians, and we're going in science and reason we're going to be our guides. We're moving into a more primitive state of thinking than we had. So I'm very upset by it, obviously. And to be quite honest, I don't think I would be a mediator. I'd just say I'm not equipped to mediate that. This is stupid.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, what are your thoughts on the people, like just the nature of a society that takes the seemingly blasphemous image more seriously than actual like war crimes, like bombing girls' schools or bombing fisher boats off of Venezuela and stuff like that, actually killing people?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm equally as disturbed by this, and that's ongoing for me. I remember, during the first Gulf War, when people were almost giddy about the hundreds of thousands of civilians that we killed, that this country killed in Iraq and Afghanistan with bombs, with cluster bombs that basically hit the ground and kill everything that's knee-high within a square mile or whatever it is. And then show up at an abortion clinic and talk about how much you value life. The cognitive dissonance and the hypocrisy are more than we can bear, more than I can bear. It just like, as you said, tying in, it's just like talking about blasphemy and not recognizing, not going to that place Lynn talked about to begin with. How do we think beyond our own limited moment that we're in, right? That we're stuck in. I mean, Trump is a really, really horrible example of a thinker, right? Because he doesn't need data. He's so godlike, at least in his opinion of himself, that he doesn't need data. He can just speak, and whatever he says is true. You see this in the example of the shoes that he's given to his staff, right? I don't know if you heard this story, but he decided to give shoes to some of the men in his cabinet, and he didn't ask their shoe sizes. So they're walking around, Marco Rubio is walking around in boats, with it too big for his feet, because he's, not man enough to say, can I return these and get the right size or whatever, But this is a man who just says, get him this size and him this size and her that size or whatever, Doesn't need to ask what size, because I'm God, I know, right? I mean, that's a really extreme example. But a lot of us, we have these thoughts and we get married to them, and they're very limited in the vast universe that we exist in, right? And I think that's a really big part of the problem. Most of us aren't wired to think beyond our assumptions, to immediately think beyond our assumptions. To say, well, no human statement is ever fully adequate, so I have to walk humbly as I proceed in the world and be able to consider other things. So, when you start to consider the issue of abortion, for example, of people who say their right to life, there's so much more than just the bombing of, the children. We saw the Iranian girls' school where dozens of girls were killed, and children throughout Gaza, Iran. Not just children, but innocent civilians in general. We see this happening all the time, and we don't have. By the way, I have another album coming out, AI album. It's called Forgotten Folk. And it's kind of a play on words. Remember how the folk music used to speak about the issues of our time? And I'm like, where did those folksters go, you know? And so this is like 60s, 70s styles folk music that talks about the issues of our day, right? From that perspective. And there's a song in it called "Where Are Those Heroes Then?" About people standing in front of abortion clinics to protect people that haven't even taken a breath yet, while they're nowhere to be seen when we see children being killed all over the world, where we see children killed in our classrooms. You know, we want it's state rights when it comes to the abortion issue, but it's the federal government's job to you know, do all of these other things like you know, determine if there's going to be AI regulations or not, you know, to prevent California from even starting on being wise on those things. So that just all of this hypocrisy. But we've got an environmental disaster that is endangering our lives. We've got a healthcare crisis that the Republicans have continued to do nothing about, despite every election saying we have a plan, but nothing ever manifests. We've got, you know, we've got schools that are falling apart and understaffed and underfunded. I mean, there's just so much going on that is detrimental to life that this party is ignoring while going around claiming to be the right to life people, the pro-life people. And that is a real big sign of what seems to be the issue that is being discussed here this morning. So now, Alan has his hand up, so I'm going to do one more real quickly. I was just kidding when I said this doesn't mean a thing. I'm paying attention.
Okay, good. I'm a fan of the PIT. It's a medical program, emergency room. Saw something Friday, it just kind of, I think my eyebrows climbed to the back of my head. It's something called free births or wild birthing. Oh, somebody's laughing. It's completely over the rainbow, a rejection of any and all medical assistance, treatment, intervention to get a birth. And it's very strange because women are dying in a fair number because they're not taking care of conditions that could be easily taken care of. And it's simulated. You know?
So, Alan, if I can get into it, because...
But it's the idea, the freedom of choice to go and kill yourself and the child you're carrying with you. It just throws me sideways.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that the person is, you know, I mean, yeah, a person that chooses to have a natural birth or go a natural route. I mean, I think that there's some arguments for that, right? And that was, you know, I saw that episode. I'm a big fan of the PIT, like everybody else in the country, I think, at this point. But I think that, you know, the greater issue is there's something in logic called the naturalistic fallacy, right? Where we tend to think that everything in nature is good. If it's natural, it's good. Remember when we were arguing against gay marriage and gay rights, right? It's not natural. Right? And when society was saying that we shouldn't give these folks equality or treat them with respect or dignity or give them the same rights as everyone else, well, it's not natural. And then often the supporters of the movement would argue that it is natural, and they'd go and find science indicating that there's you know, genetic distinctions if that makes somebody gay or whatever it might be. That's both are the naturalistic fallacy. First of all, people should have rights because they're human beings, period. We don't have to find out what your genetics say. That's the whole point of just social justice. Doesn't matter what your genetics say. You should have the right to choose who you love, period. But the naturalistic fallacy, there is sort of this tendency of a lot of us to think, because, you know, there is a connection to nature. We feel something when we're out in the natural world. We have a sense of beauty and the asymmetrical balance of life, and when it is upset the way it is right now because of global warming and the impacts of our human presence, that balance is disturbed, and it's ugly, and it's scary, and there's a lot to this sense that if it's natural, it must be good. But if you stop and think about it, everything is natural, right? I mean, beavers themselves can create a lot of environmental damage for other creatures. Invasive species can completely change the environment. Tornadoes, hurricanes, bacteria, viruses, they are all natural. And they're not always fun. They're not always good. So yeah, I understand the desire to do natural childbirth. Peggy was able to, I mean, we went to a hospital, but she rejected any kind of, pain medicine or anything like that. She wanted our children to come into the world wide awake and not drugged. And she was able to get through that. Those were 8-hour labors. That's a long time, but not as long as it could be, right? So, I mean, I really commend her. I have a song on one of my albums on Heroes where it's an homage to her giving birth to our children with that in mind. But we went to a hospital. I mean, we know things can go wrong. And in fact, I did a funeral for a baby that died in birth at home with a midwife many years ago. And it could have been prevented if there were, the resources around. So I would just point out that the naturalistic fallacy that everything that happens in nature is good and everything that is not natural is bad it could put us in a compromised position, like you're getting at, Alan, or like the pit portrayed in that series last weekend. I won't go any deeper into it, but I would also start to question what is natural and what isn't. And I'll just leave with this perhaps a controversial statement. I think that human activity is natural. I think that the things we create are natural, that the technologies we create are natural, that it's part of nature to compel us to do the things we do. And like any creature, we alter the environment, and the environment needs to evolve along with us, or the environment alters us and we need to adapt and evolve along with it. And right now we're at a place of exponential change in which nothing can keep up with what this instinctive drive within life is creating on our planet. So I do not agree with the naturalistic fallacy. I think it is committed far too much by far too many people who are well-meaning. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. I was right. It doesn't mean a thing. Little late, but let's maybe just move on with our benediction. Thank you, in our closing song.
Let us leave today with the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. It's the story of our faith. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.